Hey guys, welcome back. Better Than a Let's Play Season 2, Episode 39. I'm Enigmius, and today we're surveying the ruins of our mechanism or processing system. Funny thing happened on our way to trying to compress things, to make things smaller, to reduce potential problems down the line caused by things that like to use up a lot of resources to keep running, like multiple gigantic fluid tanks. We tried to compress everything into an applied energistics matter energy storage unit, specifically the extra cells version, which allows the ME system to work with liquids. So if you're familiar with it, it's a fantastic system for compact item storage because you can put a phenomenal number of items into a tiny little space, and then you can pick and choose how you want to be able to interface with it, from the very simple to the you can have different kinds of simple. You can have simple interface, as in you got a big screen and you just right click on things on the screen to remove stacks from the system, to no big screen, just a little wee screen, except you have to dig a little bit for the things that you want to find. It's a great system. And again, the huge benefit is taking all of those liquid tanks that we had, all of the big liquid tanks, and compressing them down into basically one block, and still having oodles of storage space in that one block for our items that we might accumulate if we wanted to set up automated mining. Whatever we wanted, we had tons of space. There's just one problem. You see, as part of the whole migration process, I wanted to pipe the liquids that I already had into the system, into the storage system. So that's exactly what I did. I'm being distracted by the experience bubbles, and even though I don't need experience, I can't turn my back. But we managed to ignore them. This is our storage system. This is where the things are actually stored. This is what I was talking about in terms of being able to store things in a tiny little space. There's 2 drives in there that can store a fantastic amount of liquids, more than I had. There was still tons of space left on them, and I've still got space for 8 more drives. That's, massive storage. And then this is what I ended up with when I piped all of our liquids for our process, our 4-tier, tier 4 ore processing system. I had brine, almost 2,000 buckets, 1,500 buckets of liquid chlorine, 1,500 buckets of liquid hydrogen, just over 1,000 buckets of liquid oxygen, and 221 buckets of liquid sulfuric acid. So all of those tanks, those 5 big tanks that I had, set aside specifically for these liquids, we could get rid of them. So that's what I did. I just pulled them all out. Hooray. And then we started setting up the new, better system that was going to be more compact, more compressed, no tanks, fewer system resources. And that's when I found out that you can't export the liquids, the mechanism liquids, from the ME system, because it's not set up to handle them. You have to be able to put the liquid in a bucket in order to be able to extract it from the network so that you can use it. You can pipe it into machines, you can do whatever you want with it. The mechanism liquids aren't set up to handle that. So I've got all of the liquids stored in that one little cube, and I can't get them out. They're there, and they're not ever coming out. Now, I tried a lot of different things. I actually posted on Reddit. I say, hey, anyone ever experienced this and had any luck getting them out? I got a lot of suggestions. I tried them all. One of them was to set up a sub-network, pipe the liquids in, set up some blacklists to try and control what was going where, and then ultimately pipe it out into, like I've got here, an ME Certus tank or some other machine or container that can hold them. But the fluid interface isn't set up, it would appear, to work with sub-networks. It doesn't recognize it. It doesn't split them into networks. All I get is controller conflicts and bad news. So all of our liquids gone. I hear you, Spider. Can't pull the wool over my eyes. Now I've started over putting things together. One of the things that I've realized is that this whole thing was sort of as a precursor to getting our reactor up and running, because this, I could tell, was already starting to be a little bit problematic in terms of having so many large tanks and the resources they were taking up. So I wanted to get this out of the way, and then we could work on the final details to get our reactor up and running. So that's what we're going to focus on for the next episode. I'm not going to worry too much about getting this done as a priority. I'll work on it as I have time, but we've already seen in the last 6 weeks or so 2 Tier 4 ore processing systems for Mechanism. I don't need to show you a third in such a small space of time. I might show you what it looks like when it's all said and done if I can get something nice and compact working. But realistically, this is kind of what we're working on. This is what we want to get up and running as our reactor, and get at least a test run, a small test run going, so that we can see that it's going to work. And then once we actually have need for that kind of power, then we can kind of fire it up and try and keep it running full time. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can do. We have access to the Blizz rods that we need to make cryothium, and I've got access to all kinds of ender pearls, all the ender pearls I could ever possibly want for the liquid ender, enderium blocks, whatever we need to get this thing finished and up and running. We'll have that for the next episode. It'll be fantastic. So in the meantime, let's take a look at some building that we did. And here we are. We get to build something. It's fantastic. It's very exciting, and it has nothing to do with machines that are broken. Hooray! In all fairness, I don't think the extra cells machines are broken. I just think there's a design deficiency. I would prefer that if you can put something in, that you're guaranteed to be able to get it out. But they don't work that way. So I was kind of fed up with machines. Just in the short term, not for like forever or anything. I just didn't want to do anything else with machines for a little while. So I decided to come out here and take some of the colored bricks that you can make with the Metallurgy 3 ores and build some weird, crazy curved things to accent the curviness of our curved magical structure. More specifically, more refined curves to draw the eye away from the extremely blocky curves on the circles and even the large ellipse that's kind of the walkway leading to the larger circles. And also because I remember that little bridge that we made. I think it was in our Ultimate World. It was just a little bridge across a river. It was completely unnecessary. We didn't need it to get around, and we rarely ever used it, but it was using the micro blocks to have this very gentle, sloped, curved kind of aesthetic to it that you just don't get to see too much in Minecraft because everything is the blocks, the 1 meter blocks. So I decided to take that same concept of using the micro blocks to create that curve, kind of stretch it out a bit, and then apply it to something that won't even see foot traffic. It's just going to kind of dangle in midair for your eye to rest on and not really notice all the other blocky things that are going on. So that's basically this whole build, but just one of them may have been kind of unimpressive. I mean, you know, the first time you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of neat. But what if we did 3 of them and changed the colors up a little bit? Then that would be even more noticeable and more likely that people would look at that instead of the circles on the platform. So that's what I did. And the main thing, as always, especially when we're doing something where we're starting with one design and then duplicating it, was getting the first design right and getting it looking the way I wanted it to, and having the elegant curves without kind of looking wonky or sort of out of place. So you can see there's a little bit of running back and forth, making changes, making adjustments, making sure that everything is symmetrical. And then once that's done, then we can expand our efforts to the other 2 sort of platforms that are going to be the exact same design, just 1 block higher to start off, different color. And generally speaking, just as useless as the first one, but hopefully kind of looking half decent. Now you can see we got a lot of dirt going on, and that's the temporary platforms, because I still, despite actually having a legitimate means to acquire ender pearls all day long, have not made the flight module for my power suit. I just haven't done it. I'm so used to just using the railgun and the glider to get around long distances. But lately I've been feeling sort of the absence of that option to be able to fly around when building and build things at elevation without having to build platforms and jump up and down and do all that other stuff that we associate with building tall structures. So maybe soon I will invest in the necessary things to get that flight thing taken care of. I don't really have a lot of power storage in my power suit. I have, I think, 15 million units, which doesn't seem like a lot. I honestly think that if I were to add flight to that and start flying around, that I would run out in an awful darn hurry. And you don't even realize how long you've been flying when you're building because you're so focused on building. It's not like we're flying to get from point A to point B, because we would still be using the railgun and the glider. But I mean, worst case scenario, I'll put it on, I'll try it. If we don't have the power reserves for it, I can look at a solution or just not use it so heavily as I might always like to. Now, this is kind of illustrating the whole idea of having the two different platforms now that the second one is a little bit closer to being done. It's just different. I can't say that it's better than just the one, because how can you say something like that is better? It's very, very subjective. I like it, but what we really need to do is carry on with the third one and ultimately see how that's going to go. And it's just working with the three different thicknesses of microblocks right now. There's the slab, which is the half a block, the panel, which is a quarter of a block, and the cover, which is an eighth of a block, and just alternating so that things seem to transition much more smoothly than they would if we were just working with full blocks. Now you can see cleaning up the dirt. I had all these chunks of dirt lying around from the previous platforms that it was actually distracting me, and all I could think about as I was building was the stupid dirt platforms that I wanted to get rid of. So we had to take a little bit of time and get rid of them just so that I could carry on and not feel like I was leaving too much dirt lying around in my wake. So it's pretty straightforward. You'll notice there's no real complex shapes happening. There's just basically layers of blocks being stuck, and one layer is higher or lower than the next, and it just carries on and produces the curve that we're looking for. And then we go back to the other side and basically do the same thing, and this is what we end up with. We've got that elegant curving design that I was looking for. It's not super ostentatious. It's not really, really noisy that really forces your eye to look at it because you're like, oh my god, that's heinous. But at the same time, as we're flying around here, are you looking at the curved platforms that we just built, or are you looking at the blocky white platforms in behind? Is basically the true test of whether or not we were successful in giving ourselves something to look at besides what was directly in front of us. And that's that. We're going to do a fly around here. I'll let you guys enjoy that if you want to continue to watch it. I don't need to tell you much more about what's going on because we're flying around. We're not even building anymore. So next episode, we're going to get the reactor up and running. Come hell or high water. I don't care if it doesn't work. I don't care if we have anywhere to store the energy. We're going to get the coolant in. We're going to get the fuel in. We're going to crank it up and see what she does. And then we're going to focus on magic for a while. Oh, the thunderstorm. I remember this. The thunderstorm. So if you want to be notified when I add the next video, you can subscribe to my channel. That always works. You can also follow me on social media, Google Plus and Twitter. Information on that is in the information section below the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.
baby.